Hey team, welcome back to Toe the Line. How are you? How is everyone doing? I am so excited to be doing this podcast today. We have got so many things to catch up on. What a weekend of sport it was. Oh my goodness. I think obviously we had the Rugby World Cup opening games. We had juicy NRL weekend one finals, which we'll get into. Lots of stuff to get into with the NRL. And then we also had the US Open, as in tennis US Open Grand Slam finals as well, which was super exciting. But, just what a weekend of sport. You couldn't ask for anything better, although the one thing I would ask is that supercars would be back on, but do not fret. That is on next weekend. But hello and welcome into episode 2 of Toe the Line. Super excited to be here with you guys today. Yeah, what a weekend. Let's just jump straight into it. Starting off first and foremost with the question of the week, which was, if you could fix one part of the All Blacks game against France, what would it be and why? And as always, you guys came through with the answers, so let's just jump straight into it. First one I have here is not kicking the ball away from when in the opposition's half. You can't score tries without the ball. This comment... When I tell you, I got so many comments like this one. I don't even know where to start. Majority of these answers are all about kicking the ball away, and I definitely agree. And we'll get into the All Blacks versus France game in the second part of this episode. But yeah, I agree with this one. Not kicking the ball away from winning the opposition's half. You can't score tries without the ball. 100% agree. Moving on. The next answer I have for if you could fix one part. If you could fix one part of the All Blacks game against France, what would it be and why? And the second answer I have is the losing part. Yeah, agree. I mean, there's not really much else to say. It was an interesting game, wasn't it? Next up, we've got no kicking. Like I said, lots of no kicking ones. The next one I have here is change the attacking, reduce the kicking duels. French like to do that French like that to advance in the territory. So, hang on, let's read that one again because I got a bit confused. Change the attacking, reduce the kicking duels, which is kind of on par with what we're talking about today, and French like that to advance into All Blacks territory, which is true. I will say with the whole kicking game, because majority of these answers are about the All Blacks kicking game, the kicking game wasn't great from either side. I think the French side were able to capitalise off their kicking game more than the All Blacks were. I think the All Blacks maybe went into that game with a game plan of kicking the ball to gain territory, but I feel like when you're like kicking the ball to gain territory, you've got to kick the ball once or twice maybe and then hang on to it, because there's no point in just kicking it back and forth and being the team that doesn't get possession of the ball in the end. And I think this is what majority of the people are saying with this one. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but yeah, I just don't think for the All Blacks they got their game plan right. I think maybe some of the senior players in the team maybe could have taken a bit of leadership and said, hey, maybe this game plan isn't working too well, let's change it up. But we're very early on in this Rugby World Cup. So moving on to the next one, we have kicking. Again with the kicking, this is actually making me laugh. Kicking like we have all day, hold on to the ball and run it up with some urgency. Again, I agree with this one. So again, just to run it back, if you could fix one part of the All Blacks game against France, what would it be and why? The next comment we have is that so the All Blacks couldn't kick the ball. So I'm assuming what this person is saying is they would coach the All Blacks to not kick the ball. Which, yeah, no comment. Like I said, all of these comments are about kicking the ball, which I find really funny. And then second to last one we have here is take back all the New Zealand coaches that left to assist other countries develop their programs the Kiwi way. That's why the ABs no longer dominate, because they've all learnt the New Zealand mindset. I mean, I don't disagree with this comment at all. I think it's definitely an interesting take. I think there's probably some truth behind it. I think, when a team is doing so well and they're dominating and they've obviously got the winning formula which the ABs had for so long, I think they're right in a way, but also I think you've got to wonder, surely teams are coming up with like their own strategies and stuff, so I kind of agree with that one, but also, maybe not. And then the last couple of ones we have here is no kicking, and then stop dropping the ball and stop kicking. Look, like I said, guys, majority of these answers were all about the kicking game, which I guess we can get into a little bit now. So that was the question of the week, but let's chat about the opening weekend of the Rugby World Cup. Obviously, we had the All Blacks vs France game as the first game of the Rugby World Cup 2023, and it was a little bit disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. I think there was just so much build up to this tournament. I think there was so much talk around from every team, not just New Zealand or France, but I think from every team going into the World Cup, there was so much talk and chat around building themselves up and having a good build up and all this sort of stuff. And New Zealand had a pretty good build up, bar the last warm-up game against South Africa at Twickenham. France had a pretty good lead up to the World Cup, and so I think this game had a lot of hype building up to it. Obviously, it's a Rugby World Cup. Obviously, the opening game is always going to have a lot of build-up, but again, it's New Zealand and France. They've got a long history, and I think it was always just going to be a good game. Did I think the All Blacks played well? I wouldn't say they had a horrible game. I think maybe, again, like we've just kind of gone over with all those responses to the question of the week, I think maybe they got their game plan a bit wrong, or they just didn't really adapt to maybe they just didn't adapt to the game that was at hand with the French. But let's go in and take a look at the stats for this game. I think this will be very telling. I already know before looking at the stats for this game, I think New Zealand's discipline compared to France was shocking, to say the least. I think off the top of my head, we had New Zealand conceded 12 penalties to France. I think they had like 4. I think they conceded about 4 or 5 to like New Zealand's 12 or 13, which wasn't great. And we had the same sort of discipline problem against South Africa at Twickenham, so that was interesting. I feel like there were a lot of things that maybe didn't really go the way of New Zealand in this opening game. I think obviously we had that yellow card with Will Jordan. People, I know, I always check the comments and online commentary after stuff like that because I find it so interesting. I think people are always going to have opinions about yellow cards and whether they're right or wrong, or red cards and whether they're right or wrong. But I think for me, with this yellow card, I think it was justified. If you didn't see it, I will put a video up on the screen for you guys. But essentially, Will Jordan and a French player were coming in to take the ball in the air. The French player jumped up to get the ball. Will Jordan made no clear attempt to jump up to take the ball. He knocked the player out from under the air, out of the air, and essentially the French player fell on his side, so it was a dangerous kind of move, if you want to call it that. I was going to say tackle, but it wasn't a tackle. I know for a fact in the rules it's very clear that the rules are there to protect the player in the air, which is obvious, and Will Jordan made no attempt to fix his line or to fix the way he was going in to take the ball to protect the French player in the air. I think maybe it potentially could have been different had he gone up to take the ball as well, but he didn't, so it was a yellow card and they were down to 14 then. I think from that yellow card is when the wheels started to start very early on to fall off for the New Zealand side. I think maybe the French side sort of took that as an opportunity to make some gains and some advantages, and they did. And I will say the first half for the All Blacks was pretty good. It I wouldn't say it was amazing, like it was average. They were keeping up with the French. It looked like New Zealand had more energy left in them going into the sheds at halftime than the French did. But then coming back into the second half, the wheels well and truly fell off for the All Blacks. I'm not sure what the French did at halftime, but they obviously did something because they came back and pretty much dominated us just from watching at home, I think. Yeah. And then it wasn't great. People were pretty pissed. It wasn't too great, and I think we had more possession than them in the first half, which is interesting, but they definitely beat us in territory in terms of the whole game. Our meters carried on attack were more than the French, but I think the French defended really well. And I forgot about this, but I think there was that moment with Cody Taylor out on the left wing right before half time, and it would have been like a fantastic moment to get that try to kind of go into the sheds at halftime with a bit of momentum behind them, but the ball kind of went out into touch, and I think it kind of really dampened their spirits a little bit. You could tell, obviously, he was annoyed with himself, but I think if that was anything to go by, in hindsight, is probably where the wheels fell off a little bit for them. But yeah, I didn't even say the final score. The final score was 27-13 to France, and at halftime it was 9-8. So, the French did really well in the second half. New Zealand did shit, really, and that's all I'm going to say on that. Moving on to, however, before we move on, I had a conversation with someone over the weekend, and it was like quite a eye-opening conversation. I'm not sure if I 100% kind of subscribe to this idea of what this person was saying, but essentially they were saying it's not like the All Blacks tried to lose this game, but he was pretty much saying to me that they might not be too upset with that loss against France, because come quarterfinal time, they're either going to be versing South Africa or France, and if the All Blacks come second in Pool A and South Africa top Pool B, then we'll be versing Ireland. And I wasn't too convinced that it would be an easy win over Ireland for us Kiwis, but this guy seemed to think it was, and so the person that I was talking to seemed to think it was. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's a little theory around tactics for you. But moving on, the second game of the Rugby World Cup was Italy versus Namibia, and that final score was 52-8 to Italy. So I guess that will be a good kind of insight into what could potentially happen in the All Blacks versus Namibia game that is this weekend. I mean, that's a pretty big scoreline that's a pretty big win for Italy, which, I mean, is great for them. So here's hoping that New Zealand can get a win this weekend against Namibia. Then on Sunday, we had Ireland and Romania, and Ireland won that pretty convincingly with an 82-8 win. And this is what I'm saying about Pool B, because Ireland have gone out and won their first match against Romania, like in a pretty, like that's like over 70 points of margin in that win. And this is what the person was saying to me over the weekend about tactics and theories and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, they could be right. I don't know. I'm not reading too much into it. Then the fourth game, was Australia and Georgia. Australia got their first win of the year with a 35-15 win over Georgia. Then we had England and Argentina. This game I was quite surprised at. England won 27-10. England got a win, so that's exciting, but in true England fashion, they won in a bizarre roundabout way, scoring no tries and 3 drop goals. Like, it just makes me laugh a little bit, because they don't make it easy for themselves, but they got the win, so that's that. But I was surprised with Argentina, because I I don't know why. I just thought maybe Argentina might be able to get the win with that one, but it wasn't to be. England got the win, and George Ford, I think his name is, he was on fire. I think he got something like 17 points in that game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the amount of points he got, which is insane. But to get 3 drop goals is just crazy to me, so that's really cool. The next game was Japan and Chile. Japan won 42-12. South Africa versus Scotland 18-3, which looking at that scoreline, it surprised me a little bit because I thought South Africa might have taken it a bit more to Scotland, but Scotland held on pretty well. I mean, 18-3 isn't like a huge margin, especially against the reigning world champion South Africa, so that was super interesting. And then the Wales and Fiji game, oh my god, what? So that's, as I'm recording this right now, the Wales and Fiji game has just finished, and I watched the first 25 to 30 minutes of it, went outside, did my workout, came back in, and that last 10 minutes of that Wales and Fiji game, oh my god, that is what a World Cup is all about. Watching Fiji play is so exciting. I love watching Fiji play, and I'm so excited for them at this World Cup. They didn't get the win. Wales got the win 32-26. But going into the last 10, there were 2 yellow cards, one for Wales, one for Fiji. But in that last 10 minutes, I think if I remember rightly, the score was at 32-14 maybe, I want to say. Yeah, 32-14. And then Fiji scored twice in that last 10 minutes, and then they had enough time for a restart, and oh my god, I don't even know what to say because it was just so exciting, and they were so close to scoring, in the finishing moments. They could have won against Wales. It would have been the greatest comeback of all time in Rugby World Cup history, I reckon. I mean, I'm being biased because I just love Fiji, but yeah, they lost, and it was so devastating. But right at the end, they were out on the right wing, and I can't remember the player's name, but he knocked it on 5 meters out from the try line, and I was like, oh my god. But yeah, what a game. This is what I was saying in my first episode. I think Fiji had a really, really good shot at really going far in this World Cup. Yes, they didn't get the win, but it was just such a good game, and I just love watching Fiji play. But Wales played great as well. They defended like their lives depended on it, which they kind of did. But yeah, what a game. It was so exciting, and I just can't wait to see what else Fiji can do this World Cup. Okay, let's take a little break from the Rugby World Cup chat and get into the NRL, and what a juicy weekend of league it was. Before we get into the chat, I do have a message from someone that I want to read out. This guy is really cool. This guy is really cool. I want to keep everyone's name who writes into me anonymous, but he's a Penrith Panthers fan. He's super cool, and he's so supportive of what I do, and I'm just so grateful. But he sent me a little message because in the first episode, I'm not sure if you remember, but I was confused about how the Warriors could lose this weekend that's just gone and still make it into the second weekend of finals. But here is an explanation for people who are also confused. He said, appreciate the NRL chat, thought I'd give a little explanation to why Warriors can lose and still progress to the next round. Basically, is a way of rewarding the best teams of the regular season. If you finish in the top 4, you have to play another top 4 team in week 1, and if you win, you get to skip the next round and have the rest. But if you lose, you just drop into the next round and basically get a second chance. It also means that the teams that finished 5 to 8 get to play each other, and in theory had a better chance of making it to the next round, as previously 8th played first, 7th played second, etc. Hope that clears it up a bit. Which it did, and he also gave me a link. To better explain it as well, but I think his message explained it perfectly, so that makes it so much more clear, and obviously it makes sense when you put it that way. But yeah, let's jump into the NRL chat and go through the results. I would just like to say that let's just go through the results. Okay, so Broncos get Storm 26-0, which I believe is a history-making win. Penrith Panthers get the Warriors 32-6, which we'll get into. Sharks lost to the Roosters 12-13. Oh, 1 point. Doesn't that just kill you inside? And then Knights lost to Knights won against the Raiders 30-28, another close one. The Broncos, yeah, like I said, 26-0, I believe that is a history-making win for them. And then the Penrith Panthers and the Warriors. Oh, I don't mean to laugh, but I did call it. I said the Warriors wouldn't win against the Penrith Panthers. I said the Panthers would win, which they did. And I watched a little bit of the game. I think I watched the full first half and then a little bit of the second half, and then went and did something else. But people were saying in the comments that it was a shit game, or it was a rubbish game, or the game wasn't good, or all this sort of stuff. And I can only but assume those people were Warriors fans, because it wasn't a good game if you were a Warriors fan. It was a good game if you were a Panthers fan, and I'm not saying I'm a Panthers fan or Warriors fan or any other fan. I just watch league. I'm just interested in the championship. I find it interesting to watch. I hadn't watched enough league, like I hadn't watched it for as many years as some other people have to like be diehard fans of one team, or like be diehard supporters of one team. But people took it really seriously. But to make matters worse and put icing on the cake for the Penrith side, I'm not sure if you guys will be, I'm sure you are if you watch league, but there's this saying going around if you're especially a Warriors fan called up the wires. And essentially, it's just something that the Warriors team have like brought in, and like their fans use it, and it's really cool. But the Panthers decided to take on their own saying, which sounded very similar to up the wires, but for them it was up the cars. And I thought it was hilarious. They made this whole video, this whole kind of song to go along with it, very similar to up the wires. I thought it was funny, like it was so funny. But Warriors fans didn't find it as funny, and I did a little TikTok reacting to some of the comments under the Up the Cars video, all kind of negative comments from the Warriors fans and Warriors supporters and stuff. But yeah, it was quite funny. I believe the video is taken down now, but my video is still up, so if you want to see me reacting to some funny comments, then definitely go and check that one out. But yeah, so Penrith have a weekend off next week, and Warriors, I believe, are at home against... Who are they against? Warriors are at home against the Knights, which should be an interesting one, because their Warriors are 4th, Knights are 5th, so we'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, it was definitely a massive weekend. To top that off though, I did want to talk about quickly the injury to Ryan Pappenheisen. I'm pretty sure it's Ryan Pappenheisen, I think is how you say his last name. But he had just come back into playing for the Storm, had been out for like something like 405 days with injury, like rehabbing his injury or something like that. And then in the game against the Broncos, he suffered it looked horrible. They kept playing it in slow-mo, and I had to like stop watching because it was like horrible to watch. But he it looked like he like rolled, or his ankle went one way and his body went the other, and it's ruled him out for like the rest of the season. The Storm are saying that he will be back in the new year, which is really good, and because people were saying that he might not come back into the league after that and all that. But I really hope he will, because he's quite young. He's a good little player, and it's just devastating. Oh, injuries are just so heartbreaking. But yeah, that's kind of what happens with contact sport or sport in general. Injuries happen, and you can't really do much but just do the rehab and get on with it. But yeah, it's absolutely devastating. I want to move on to tennis, as in the US Open. I'm a little bit of a tennis fan, I won't lie. And the women's singles final for the US Open was Coco Gauff and Sabalenka. And for I'd be shocked if you didn't see this because it was all over everyone's like Instagram and all that. But Coco Gauff, the 19-year-old, beat Sabalenka in 2 sets. It was Arena won the first set 6-2. Then it was Coco Gauff who won the 2 last sets 6-3, 6-2. And it was just such a good game of tennis. It was so exciting to watch, and I actually had a little reaction video to watch here, and I'll pop it up on the screen to you. So let's watch it, and it was just such a good game. But yeah, let's watch it. So I think we're on to the last point here. Triple championship point. So she's just won. That literally gives me so many goosebumps. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret, but sometimes I will watch like athletes winning things, or like, especially my favourite win at the US Open of all time was when, so I think it was my favourite final of all time was the Madison Keys and Sloane Stephens final back in 2017, and I watched that last championship point, all the time because it just gives me all the feels and it's so exciting, and I just love seeing people like win. I just love seeing people succeed. So sometimes I watch those sort of videos to feel something. We move on, but yeah, the tennis was great. I really, really enjoyed it. But yeah, I believe Coco Gauff is the first teen since Serena Williams back in like 1999 or something to win a Grand Slam final, or I'm pretty sure it was that. But yeah, really, really exciting for her, and I'm so happy for her. And yeah, her breakthrough was when she was 15 years old 4 years ago, and yeah, I'm just so happy for her. So that's super exciting. Okay, let's move on to some headlines from around the world. First up, if you haven't already seen, Amoni Narawa for the All Blacks has been sent home with a back injury, which is obviously devastating. But if you are a Crusaders fan, Ethan Blackadder has been called in to the squad, and I believe is either making his way or is already there over in France. He's been called up to the All Blacks World Cup squad in place of Amoni Narawa, despite the difference in position. And yeah, I'm just super excited. I really love Ethan Blackadder. I think the way he plays is so exciting. He's such a workhorse, but I just really love his style of play. I think it's really exciting. He is a little bit prone to injury, but touch wood, he is all good. He's actually just got back and started playing like the last few months after his like second injury of the year, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that was super exciting. So I can't wait to see him over there in France. And staying on tune with the All Blacks, this is coming back to the game against New Zealand and France, that Sam Cane there, the All Blacks captain, was ruled out as he sustained a little bit of a back tweak or back injury at the captain's run on the Thursday. So yeah, he did not play. The All Blacks captain Sam Cane did not play against France in that opening game. I don't think there's been anything that's come out since then about what his condition is now. It'll be interesting to see if he stays out with the Namibia game. I think it would probably be smart if it was a bit more of a concerning injury, considering without jinxing it, I think New Zealand have a pretty good shot at beating Namibia, you'd like to hope. Staying with the World Cup, but kind of going into something a bit more sinister, there was reports that a team or some teams, not sure who, were spying on other teams at trainings for the World Cup, and there's a little video that I have here for you guys that we can watch as well.
There's been reports in the media today about one of the top teams inquiring with World Rugby about the sanctions in place for if a team is found to be spying on another one at a training. Do you have any idea what team it was that made that inquiry?
No, I haven't heard of that, but and it wasn't us. But was anyone spying on us? That's cool.
What do you make of the conversation about espionage taking place at the World Cup?
Welcome to the World Cup. You know, it's that simple. There's a lot of pressure on. People react different ways. It's an exciting time, and everyone's looking for an edge, and so I'm not sure where that one's come from. We're pretty confident that we've been training alone, but who knows?
Yeah, so that was the video. That for those of you who didn't pick up on that, that was at the All Blacks press conference before their game against France, and that was Ian Foster. Why do I always do that? But that was the All Blacks head coach at the press conference. But I think that's so interesting and kind of funny. I loved his answer. But let me find, there was this comment under this video that had me dying, and I just want to read it for you guys because it was so funny. Here's the comment under this video. It said, "Yeah, it was definitely South Africa spying. We just want to know how all other nations clubs can look the same as ours, weigh the same, but still manage to be weak as piss." Oh my god. And cry about 7-1 and cry about 7-1 splits. This one had me, when I saw it, I was like, that is just so funny. Obviously, the crying about the 7-1 splits was in relation to the South Africa bench against New Zealand at the warm-up game at Twickenham, but that just honestly was so funny. It made me laugh so much, and yeah, it was just so funny. And then, shall I read some of the other comments because they're quite funny as well? Someone said, "Wait for the facts based on evidence to come out before showing your bias, hopefully before the end of the group stages. Spying or no spying, just play the game. ABs need to spy very quickly." Someone's commented, "Worst ABs coach. I'm willing to get every team has/is/will do this. There are usually the bookies spying so they can make preemptive bids on teams. Silly woman reporter, get a life, Sheila." That makes no sense. This is not aging that well. Place your bets here, folks. Is it Eddie or is it Razzie? Oh, people have no chill in the comments, and I am so here for it. But moving on, I did quickly want to mention the Ryan Papenhuisen injury again, just to give you guys a little bit more detail. It looks like there's a little bit of a hospital update. I believe he has had an operation, but I'm just going to read a little bit of this update for you guys. The Storm have provided an update after Ryan Papenhuisen was stretchered off the field late in Melbourne's 26-0 defeat to the Broncos. The 25-year-old's latest setback came during his third game upon return from a knee injury which left him out of the game for 13 months. In the 73rd minute, when attempting to make a tackle on Brisbane prop Tom Flegler, Packenheiser's leg was caught under teammates. Melbourne Storm star player Ryan Packenheiser has this morning undergone surgery on a fractured right ankle suffered in Friday night's loss to the Brisbane Broncos. Girl, take a breath. The Storm said in a statement. News Corp reports he had 6 screws and a plate inserted into his leg. Storm General Manager Football, that makes no sense, Frank Punnesi, said it was a huge loss for the side, but Packenheiser was maintaining a positive outlook. We're obviously devastated for Ryan suffering another setback after spending a significant time away from the game after injuring his knee last year, Punnesi said. He's worked extremely hard to get back to the NRL over that time and left no stone unturned in his recovery. Moving on, I think he's done a few stories on Instagram, and yeah, it's pretty devastating, but it looks like, and it's looked like from what they said, that he should make a pretty quick recovery. Fingers crossed for him, because I believe he's only 24, 25, and to already have so much time out from the game due to injury is devastating, but really wishing him the best in his recovery. Okay, so we are nearing the end of this episode for this week, but before we do, let's see what's coming up in the sporting world this weekend. Starting off with the Rugby World Cup matches for weekend 2. On Friday, we have France v Uruguay. On Saturday, we have New Zealand and Namibia. That's at 7 o'clock our time. Should I be a good person and get up to watch that game? You guys let me know, because I'm kind of... actually, you know what? Maybe I will. This is sort of my job, so maybe I should. Anyway, moving on. Sunday, we've got 3 games. Samoa versus Chile, Wales versus Portugal, and Ireland versus Tonga. I reckon that would be a pretty interesting game, Ireland and Tonga. And then on Monday, we have South Africa and Romania, Australia and Fiji. Oh, that would be a good time, but it's at 3:45 in the morning. Girl, that... Maybe I'll just watch the highlights or rewatch the game at a different time, because that's early. But that Australia and Fiji game, maybe I should just get up for it, because that will be such a good game, I reckon. And then the last game on Monday is England and Japan, but that Australia and Fiji game, I think, will be super juicy. I just love... Oh shit, my god, I nearly took my head out with the mic. I just think Fiji... I just love watching them play. I think they had so much... they just know how to light up the game, and it can be lit up at any time with them, like we've just seen in the Wales and Fiji game that's just gone. That last 10 minutes was exhilarating. My hands were sweating and my hands were clammy. But it was just, I just love watching them play. But moving on to the NRL finals week 2, there's just 2 games this weekend. On Friday, we've got Storm, who are 3rd, and Roosters, who are 7th, playing off against each other. And then on Saturday, for Kiwi fans, if you're a Kiwi fan, we have the Warriors, who are 4th, versus the Knights, who are 5th, and I do believe that is at Go Media Stadium in Auckland, so that will be another big one, I think. But yeah, it's getting down to the nitty gritty in the NRL, which is super exciting. I think I called it last weekend, so I guess I have to call it again for this weekend, but I think the Warriors might win this one against the Knights, but touch wood, fingers crossed, everything crossed, that I haven't jinxed that, because I didn't jinx anything last weekend, so give myself a little bit of credit there. But I think I'm hoping the Warriors win, because it will be epic to see them in the grand final. And then I am very, very, very excited, because Supercars is finally back this weekend. We've got the Sandown, the Penrite Sandown 500, and I believe the Sandown Raceway is in Melbourne. This format this weekend is an endurance format, which is always exciting. I way prefer watching endurance formats over... Actually, that's a little bit of a lie. I think sometimes super sprints or the sprint format can be really exciting, but it kind of... unless you qualify really well, it can be really hard to make any gains, whereas with endurance there is so much more room to move up the field, even if you don't qualify well. I am obsessed with Shane van Gisbergen. I think his style of racing is insane. For those of you who don't know who he is a New Zealand race car driver. He just recently went over to NASCAR and won on his debut at NASCAR, which is so crazy. This is his last year in supercars, which I'm so sad about because I just think he lights up that supercars field. In saying that though, this year has been really interesting with the new Gen 3 regulations, the new Gen 3 cars. It's definitely made it a lot more even playing field across the grid. Erebus have been doing really well. Who else? Shell haven't been doing too great. Anton and Will, they've been having some issues in the new Gen 3 car. I know Shane has been having some issues with the new Gen 3 car. Someone who I think has been doing really well, and it's his second season in supercars, is Brock Feeney. I think he's having a great season so far. I think it would be really interesting to see what happens with him at Bathurst. I think he could potentially do really well there. But never rule out Shane. Shane is a wizard behind the wheel. He just knows how to drive the car and get the best out of it. His tire dig management is insane. He could go, I can't remember what race it was, but he was back in like 6th or 7th, and he stayed out on the track and was in first with about like 2 laps to go because he hadn't done his pit stop, and I believe he ended up like winning the race because his tire management is just so good, and the way he's able to work the car and get it into good lines and stuff is just insane. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. That will start on Friday with the practice sessions and then the qualifying sessions and all that. But yeah, super exciting. Actually, just quickly, let's take a look at what the weekend is going to look like. So, we've got all the practice sessions on Friday, and then Saturday we've got qualifying for... Oh, so there's just the one race this weekend. Oh, okay, so... That's interesting. Oh, because it's endurance. Stupid Taylor. Okay, keep up, girl. But yeah, it's 160 laps on Sunday, which will be a really good race, and that's at 2:15 Melbourne time, so 4:15 if I'm correct, New Zealand time. But yeah, super exciting weekend of sports. Obviously, we've got the World Cup, the NRL, and supercars. There's probably some other sports like golf or UFC or something that I don't watch. But anyway, let me know if you watch those in the comments below. But that is it for episode 2 of Toe the Line. I think this one's been a bit all over the shop. I must apologise. My head has been all over the shop. So many exciting things, and sometimes my brain can't keep up with my mouth, and there are so many things going on in my brain, and I want to say it all at one time and I just can't, so there's probably things I've left out. But as I said, we're very new here, we're learning and growing, we're getting better, and we're just gonna have to grow together, I guess. But with all of that said and done, that is it for episode 2. I have really enjoyed this one. Obviously, it was a massive weekend of thoughts just gone, and a massive weekend of thoughts coming up. I would love to know. Let me know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or send me a message or whatever, what you're watching this weekend, because I love seeing what everyone is watching. If you are listening on any audio platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Apple Podcasts, please, if you had any critiques, good or bad, let me know in the reviews. Give me a rating as well. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give me a like if you liked it, and leave a comment. And I think that is it. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. Take care of yourself, look after yourself, be kind to one another, and I will see you back here soon. Bye.